have a question. So is this Zoom meeting on this number and it doesn't depend on a person?
I guess I didn't realize that. That seems amazing to me. It doesn't depend on her. I assumed that she had to be here, but it's weird. It's weird.
Well, actually, the number that she sends out each time is consistent. So, in fact, I guess any one of us could. I don't know if any one of us could host it, or because it's under her name, isn't it?
Yes, and she had to pay for it. So
Yeah,
we all
chipped in.
we all paid for her account. That's right.
Yeah. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
In terms of whether or not someone else can take over the account.
Well, on my thing, it says I'm the host.
Oh, good.
Over on participants, do you see the thing where it says participants, manage? Down at the bottom it says manage participants. And if you click on that, you get a list of participants, and it has me at the top, and it says host, whatever that means.
Oh yeah, I see that. I see that you're listed as a host on mine too.
I have no idea what that means.
Isn't that interesting? Huh.
I hope Barbara doesn't get upset that we can meet without her.
Yeah, she did have some problems with that.
Sometimes she has issues with autonomy or whatever. I don't know what you call it. So.
Right.
So I'm just waiting. We're waiting for Karen. Karen emailed and said that Renda was a little bit late picking her up. So we're
okay.
A few minutes. So.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, good.
I realized.
Matthew, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you planning for your birthday?
Oh, it's I'm doing a piano concert at the Benbow Hotel.
Oh my God! On your birthday? Good for you! What a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
Sunday. I'm going to play for half an hour, and people have wine and stuff, and then we're having a 30-minute program with the ukulele and songs and piano. One of my person I've worked with for years, it turns out, has a fabulous voice. She's going to sing a South African song. And we're having dinner.
That sounds like a wonderful birthday party. Cool.
Will this be Sunday?
Sunday at 5:00.
Oh, I shall think about you at 5.
Thank you.
Wow, that's great, Kathy.
Well, who knows what the next years are going to bring. And
well, we can't go there. We can just every day as it comes.
Yes, we have to be with what is. That's right.
Exactly.
And then I'm doing a doo-wop class, and I sing weekly. So I'm really very happy. Music really makes happiness.
Yeah, no, that sounds wonderful. That sounds like a wonderful way to spend your birthday or to celebrate your birthday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. When are you coming back to the Bay Area? Are we going to be at the meeting?
I'll be back on the 15th. Our last doo-wop class is the 15th, and then I'll be back for a week, and and then come back the rest of the summer.
You being back up there with the rest of the summer?
Yeah, well, it's the fires are terrible. There's Reading is on fire. I mean, we're okay here, but it's awful. And Reading, they've evacuated parts of Reading. And
yeah, I saw that. That was in the Chronicle. Yeah. No, it does look terrible. You're right.
How are you? How's Alton Gardy?
Great. Everything is fine here. We're having a very cold summer. Well, I mean, a typical San Francisco summer. It's freezing. It's freezing cold. So.
Right. Even in the Mission?
Yeah, it's very chilly right where we are. Yeah. I was tempted to turn the heat on this morning. It was that cold.
I hate it. 50. I can do 60, but when it drops to 50, it's like winter.
Yeah, 53 this morning when I woke up. So
we've had in the Gulch. I'm out by the coast, and the fog's going in and out. But for 5 days, it's been beautiful, and my little garden's doing well, and they're busting all kinds of people left, right, and center up here. So.
Wow, why?
Well, they're all non-compliance, so they're going into the wood. They're sending letters to everyone. Except Mendocino, so far they're not.
Oh, because of all those new regulations, you mean? Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
of that in other
Yeah.
places. Yeah, yeah. Some of these old-time pot farmers are now being harassed, and they haven't been for 20 years before. So, yeah.
Well, they forget for how many years were they making millions without.
Yeah. No, many of them have been there for years, decades. Yeah, decades.
So, and they wonder why they're going called revenge or
Right.
whatever. Anyway, yeah, it's good.
Cool. So
Yeah,
I'm just looking at the calendar. You're coming back on the 15th, but we don't have a meeting that week. We have a meeting on the 24th. You won't be here then, I guess, huh?
The following week. Oh, yeah, I could be.
Okay.
Good.
But you won't be here by the 10th.
No.
Yeah.
I was gonna come on the 6th, but I think I'll stay for this last singing class where it's really good and
Cool.
so the smoke's now coming into the Whitethorn Valley. I don't know where it's from, but it's coming.
Well, we have the smoke here. I don't know if you were here, but about 2 weeks ago, we had the smoke here in San Francisco. And last summer we had it also. I mean, choking smoke, really so bad that your eyes watered and stuff. So we're not having it right now, but go ahead. It's funny, we can't talk at the same time. That's weird.
Maybe it's Yosemite is coming.
I don't think the wind goes in that direction. It's usually when it's north, like when the fires were around Ukiah, around Clear Lake last year. It was terrible here. Yosemite, the wind I think blows from off the ocean. So, but a couple of weeks ago it was very bad. Like I say, choking. Your eyes would water. My eyes were watering, and it was choking. I mean, you really couldn't breathe outside. So.
Well, the whole state's on fire, and I don't know where Yosemite is, but all the resources have been down there. So, I don't know. I just pray nothing happens here.
Let me look at a fire map. They have these maps online that show you where the big fires are. So, let's see. The big one, the Redding one is the worst one. You're right. That's the scariest one. So. I think Yosemite, it's mostly smoke, but the smoke is bad enough, so they had to close Yosemite, which is pretty bad.
Right, and it's all the way up to Lake Tahoe. My childhood friend, Tahoe's engulfed too.
Oh, here's Karen. Oh, good timing.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Karen.
So you made it, and not too bad. 10 minutes. That's pretty much on time. For Rinda, that's considered on time. Well, she did well. She must have had the speed to get to your house. She can't park in the front? I thought the front was empty today.
No, she did.
Oh, she is parking. Okay.
Moni, did you read her letter? She said, hard working time with strong opposites between inner and outer life. But do we know how to weave them together?
Yes. Why don't we read her feedback after we've experienced had our own experience? But yes, we should definitely read it at the feedback time. Yeah. So keep it handy.
Well,
did you guys get the thing from Marty about the tugroom, or did she send that to me? Did you get the letter from Marty about the recording of Ilza's workshop in 2005?
no.
She has a copy of the recording in English, the English translation. It's like 10 hours long, and she was wondering how to deal with it if we all wanted copies. And I wrote back and said, of course we want copies if possible. So.
From what?
From Ilza's conference in 2005. I believe you were there.
Yes. There. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to check it. I'm getting some freezing. I'm going to go check my settings and
okay.
see. I'll be right back.
Okay. We just have to wait for Rinda to get inside, but now Rinda's here too. So.
Okay, good. Well, Wi-Fi's on, so I have no clue what's wrong. It's sort of freezing, but.
There you are.
Oh, there's Barbara. Or she was for a minute. There she is.
Is that your screensaver with the tree?
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
I can't hear you.
No
Hello?
sound.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? No, she can't hear us.
No, I can't hear you. I don't think anybody can hear you.
No, I can't hear her. Do you hear her, Kathy?
No.
But we still have a minute to wait for Rinda, so.
I hear her. No,
Oh, good.
You
No.
hear me?
Yes, yay.
I hear
No,
Rinda.
no, she just popped up.
There's a problem with my computer. It's been crashing like crazy. And I didn't realize it was going to be a problem this morning. I don't know if it's my computer or Comcast, but the phone is working. So here we are, at least by phone. By my phone. It hooked us all together.
Your phone. That's why you look different. Yeah, you look totally different.
It's
You
a
look
different
totally
format. Yeah.
Different coloration and also
Yeah,
your
different.
face is coming from a different angle.
Different color and your face is huge.
Okay, how about is this better if I put it at a distance?
Do it as it works for you.
It's just different. So, no, it's fine.
And your face is not huge.
Yeah, that's better from my point of view. From my point of view. But whatever works for you, it's fine.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve, I need to tell you something.
Yeah.
I just got an email on August 11th, Saturday, from 12 to 4. The Salesforce building has an open house.
Oh, cool.
Who does?
Salesforce, you should go on down there and see the rooftop garden. I just forwarded you the email.
Well, it'll be open after that. That's just the opening.
Right, but you get to go in and see it.
Yeah.
Grand opening, and you'll see the roof garden and.
What's the Salesforce?
It's that horrible
It's
building.
the new Trans Bay Terminal building.
Oh,
Big building.
Open to the public. I'm not sure it's going to be open to the public. Oh, I'd love to come down and see that.
it has a roof garden? How fabulous.
Yeah, that's huge.
425 Mission. Oh.
It has a huge garden that's like 4 blocks long. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm eager to see it, but I can't go that day.
12 to 4. Darn.
What day was that?
It's Saturday the 11th, did you say, Kathy?
Oh,
Yeah, 12 to 4.
I hope not to be here then.
So I'm going to turn off my email. I got your email, thank you. But I'm going to turn it off because it makes noise. Okay.
Okay.
How do you do that? It didn't occur to me to turn off my email.
Yeah, it's a good idea to turn off your email because it makes that little ping. You know.
You just close the app, Faith.
The app?
Yeah, your mail application, you just close it.
Oh, okay. Is it bothering anybody if it's open?
It's only if you get mail and it pings. It depends on how you have it set up.
Oh, okay. Well, if something happens, I will go ahead and close it. But since I'm stable, I don't know that I want to experiment.
Did you guys get that Rudolf Steiner quote that I sent? Did anybody look at that?
That was lovely.
The what?
I wondered if you'd appreciate it, because somehow when I read Monty's thing, I was like, oh, I got to send this.
Well, the Rudolf Steiner literature is filled with great stuff.
Sometimes I listen to him and it's like, wow, why didn't I read this guy 30 years ago? I think you're right, it's filled with great stuff.
There's a building in Rotterdam that I would love to go see.
That's a Steiner?
that's built on his principles. Actually,
Ah,
the cluster of buildings that have been redone, and they're all self-sustaining. It's
a self-sustaining building?
it's a cluster of, I think, 5 buildings, but I saw I don't know, there was a write-up of it maybe 20 years ago. No. I became aware of it back in the 90s. And so I have no idea if there are more than 5 now, the cluster of 5 buildings that were all interconnected, and they had controlled the inside air with water. And I mean, it really fabulous, really amazing.
Wow.
I'd love to go see it.
I want to go see it now. I'm going to have to look it up on the internet.
Yeah. I haven't thought about it for a while. So
Sorry.
if you find something, or if I find something, if I go on, I will
All
certainly.
right.
But I'm a great fan of his stuff.
Meditation time,
Sounds good.
20 minutes, sound good?
Sounds good, Karen. Thanks for taking the helm there.
It's okay, Barbara.
Okay, 20 minutes.
Sounds good. See you in 20 minutes.
What?
See you in 20 minutes. I think
Okay.
I'm not going to mute my phone. I'm just going to, I don't want to mess with anything.
Yeah, good.
That's what male sounds like.
Faith, do you have Steve on your screen?
Yes.
I don't. I just have you.
Hmm. Do you have Kathy?
No.
Huh. Can you hear them?
Kathy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you for some reason.
Hmm.
Is Kathy not able to hear?
Kathy, can you hear?
Oh, now I see them.
We're not hearing Kathy now. So
Kathy put herself on mute. Let's see if I can unmute her.
Unmute. Is that it?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I thought I turned it off.
cool. So how is everyone?
I got a little chilled. I'm gonna go get a sweater.
It's cold today.
I know this morning I was like, this is like winter.
Really, it's amazing.
Could you guys talk up just a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, okay, yeah. It may be
Thank you.
because you're using your phone, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Karen, I was just thinking again how great it was to have you be a different person to come in and take the helm. That was great.
Oh, thank you, Barbara. I like how smoothly we went into meditation.
Yeah, it was very smooth transition. It was great. Well, I'll start just to both get the ball. Oh, maybe I won't. Never mind. I'm going to wait.
Are we waiting to check in? Is that it?
Whoever wants to check in, we're waiting for the first person to check in.
I sort of feel as though we checked in already.
Okay, let's read that. Good.
Is that okay with Karen and Renda? What's so funny?
Let's find out about breath weaving.
What are you guys laughing about?
I'm laughing because, well, I mean, I can't go into a whole explanation, but I'm thinking, do I care that I'm not checking in? It's like, no, I don't care.
All right.
My laughter was kindled by a similar concept.
I see.
I was like, no, I haven't checked in. That's okay.
I don't care.
Well, this is interesting. What does a check-in mean for you?
Sometimes there might be some experience in the meditation that was especially striking to me, and so I want to share it with people.
Uh-huh.
And then other times I'm just kind of floating along, and it's like, no, I don't really need to talk.
Yeah, and we have this habit of always through a routine of checking in, you know, as if we have to report back. So.
Yeah.
Actually, I usually like to check in. There's usually something I want to say, but today there's nothing I need to say.
Yeah, I think it's kind of nice to not go through that formality. All right, breath weaving. Okay, I'll start. Breath weaving. As an important element, breath weaving should be mentioned here. You stand or sit well and are intensely present in the wall of your back. Now you allow a feathering breath, which comes close to a pulsing. It's important that a short breath not develop, which would demand a certain effort, but an automatic feathering.
The diaphragm is participating in the feathering breath, but the wall of the back is dominant in the beginning. The breath pause is minimal. However, soon an independent undulation of breath emerges, which you can keep for a long time. After your back has tuned in, so that you do not have to make any effort at all, you include the walls of your whole body, also the arms, hands, and legs. I'm not sure what this feathering breath is. Maybe we can talk about it a little.
There the flowing substance becomes conscious, energy, which stimulates you. Now it becomes important that you perceive your body walls as permeable, that you no longer sense yourself as separate from the outer space. The border between the outer and the inner changes into a transition.
You sense that you belong to the whole, and at the same time, your personal power is strengthened. Slowly, you become conscious of the significance and the extent of your inner space and also of the outer space. And if you rest in the substance of your center, oh, I thought there was a period there somewhere, without fear, you can experience the spaciousness which was unknown to you before.
The breath weaving wants more of the outer space with, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses still. Okay. The breath.
We can't hear you.
Okay. The breath weaving wants more of the outer nose with its wide nostrils. Steve, you want to finish?
The outer breath follows almost on its own.
I think that bears reading a second time.
Yeah, good idea.
It's so detailed instructions.
Right, the density of it is kind of overwhelming.
Really,
Why doesn't one person read it all the way through? Do you want to read it, Faith?
No, someone else can read it.
I would, except I don't have my glasses.
Okay, I'll read it. Is that all right with everybody?
That's good.
yes.
Good.
Okay, breath weaving. An important complement, breath weaving, should be mentioned here. You stand or sit well and are intensely present in the wall of your back. Now you allow a feathering breath, which comes close to pulsing. It's important that a short breath not develop, which would demand a certain effort, but an automatic feathering. The diaphragm is participating in the feathering breath, but the wall of the back is dominant in the beginning. The breath pause is minimal. However, soon an independent undulation of breath emerges, which you can keep for a long time. I can actually see Ilse doing that. After your back is tuned in so that you do not have to make effort at all, you include the walls of your whole body, also the arms, hands, and legs. Here the flowing substance becomes conscious, energy, which stimulates you. Now it becomes important that you perceive your body walls as permeable, that you no longer sense yourself as separate from the outer space. The border between the outer and the inner changes into a transition. You sense that you belong to the whole, and at the same time, your personal power is strengthened. Slowly, you become conscious of the significance and the extent of your inner space, and also the outer space. And if you rest in the substance of your center without fear, you can experience the spaciousness which was unknown to you before. The breath weaving wants more of the outer nose with its wide nostrils. The outer breath flows almost on its own.
So I know she taught outer nose breath. I don't ever recall her teaching this. So
It's like when we go.
Really?
Yeah, it's not really a short breath. I can see, I used to be amazed. You could actually see Ilse's diaphragm flutter. Her whole diaphragm would flutter.
Well, Well, I don't have any recollection. I remember doing, but I don't recall called breath weaving. Anyway,
No, she didn't. I don't remember it being called breath weaving. I think it was just called feathering.
Yeah, the word is new. That's why it's exciting. It's a new concept. The weaving.
Well, because feathering has been a larger exercise standing, right?
Yes, well, feather
Yeah.
sort of normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But the feathering description of the diaphragmatic response feels appropriate.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what is weaving suggests that they're interlacing, the two things are coming together.
Yeah, the inner and the outer, those dynamics. That's why I sent the thing about the sun and the moon. I thought that was really kind of interesting on the centrifugal force of the organs, you know, your intestines and the tissues and all of that. And then the behavior, the expressions that manifest as a result is the outer, your relationship, how you relate to the outer, how your countenance, whatever you've developed, relates to the outer. I just found that a fascinating additional dynamic to add.
Faith, so you think this is what the breath we learned with feathering originally?
It starts out with feathering, yes, she says feathering.
I think it's based on that same principle, yes.
It says,
Yeah, it's just including a whole nother, much more complex level.
Well,
I mean,
I know in breath moves this time, Jörg was huge on including the world. That was a really big part of it. So that's the end, I guess, end thing. Inner, outer, and the world. Follows.
cool. Okay, let's work.
yeah, it's 11:52 now, so it's essentially 10 minutes of 12. Shall we work till 20 after? How does that sound? Or longer?
22 after. Why don't we make it a full half hour?
Okay. It's now 53. We'll go
Yeah,
23 after.
a couple minutes after. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You go, Renda.
+2.
Good.
Is everyone back?
Yes.
At least physically.
Well, I'll go first just because I don't have a lot to say. I felt so distracted by all this electronic challenge this morning and actually for the last 48 hours. I couldn't find a lot of freedom in my breath. So I really worked at trying to get the diaphragm to flutter for at least half the time. And the diaphragm would not release enough to flutter. So then I just kind of went with the inner and the outer. And I did have a little bit of breath sculpting, a little bit of, response to the substance of breath. And, there was some alternate dimension awareness, for lack of better words. But mostly I felt pretty pedestrian or kind of trotting. I felt like my whole body was a bit heavy and a little stiff. So, wah. So it goes sometimes.
The vicissitudes of life.
Right.
What did you say, Karen?
The vicissitudes of life.
Ah.
I had a teacher in graduate school who loved to say that.
Oh.
That's always stuck in my head.
Yeah, I've heard you use that word before, and I never think to use it, but it's a really good word. The vicissitudes of life.
To me. Anyway, yeah.
How about you, Faith? You're the only other person I see visibly on my screen.
Oh, the others have disappeared for a while?
Yeah, I can hear their voices in the background again. And last time they suddenly started all appearing, but I mean, before we broke, and I didn't change anything on my camera, but I'm not seeing them now.
Oh, well, I had an experience once that said, if they're not in the box, then they don't exist.
But I can still hear them.
Yes. Yes, I was trying to get some art supplies out from underneath my roommate's bed. And as she was an art student too, and we shared a box of art supplies, which we stored under her bed, and which was fine, except for when she was in it, you couldn't get the box out because the mattress pressed down on it. And one night I was trying to finish an assignment before the next day it was due, and she always did her things, her assignments well before they were due, and I always left mine to the last minute. But at any rate, so she had gone to bed and I was working, and I needed something that was in the box. So I was very deviously and slowly and trying to slide the box out from under the bed without waking her. And at one point she just sat bolt upright and said, "If it's not in the box, it doesn't exist." And then went back to sleep. I've always appreciated it.
That's funny, that quality of clarity, of self-protection coming through like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Did she remember saying it?
I don't think she did.
I don't imagine that.
Yeah. We lost track after a while, but then we reconnected long after we both were finished with school, and it was fun to retrieve some of the things, and she had no recollection of that one.
Wow, that's amazing,
But
boy.
it was
So did you take the opportunity to give the box a good yank?
Really?
Right.
Really?
Did you do that, Faith, or was it too shocking?
it would have been too shocking. Yeah. This is an interesting exercise. It brought to mind something that happened, and you may remember this, Kathy. Didn't we have an assignment in our first training where we were to do little steps every morning, and we were to do them for at least 20 minutes?
Huh.
Remember that?
I don't, but
Well, it was
it's probably true.
Well, that was a very very impactful assignment between segments for me, in that one day when I was doing it, I felt as though my body walls dissolved. I called it dissolving.
Wow.
And so it was really an impactful experience with me. And as I was working this morning, that came back to me, because I think that the wall of my back was really instrumental in focusing in on the allowing of the response in the diaphragm. I don't think I could describe my experience as pulsing, or not even maybe a feathering. It was more like a tremble, or what's the other word I came to? More like a ripple, or a tremble, a sensation through the diaphragm. But it was really significant for me to have the focus of or to be present in the wall of my back. That seemed really significant to me. So I did it sitting first with my eyes closed, and it was a palpable shift to the sensation of the balance of inner and outer. And then I decided I wanted to try it standing. And I didn't want to do standing with my eyes closed, and I wanted to also bring my vision into it. So I did it standing, and that was interesting because it was different in the sense of the wholeness, the quality of wholeness was different, more palpable. And then I realized I still had my shoes on, so I did the exercise a third time with my shoes off, and it brought back to me that exercise of sensing the floor being, well, for me it was like a trampoline, that the floor would tremble, and the trembling would be reflected into my body and then back into the floor, and my neuropathy made it kind of muddy, but that was an interesting exercise that we've done recent within the last couple of years. And I don't remember if that exercise was an exercise that was used right from the beginning. I don't recall that. But the exercise of working and sensing the reflection of the diaphragm into the pelvic floor, down, connecting the legs and into the feet and the floor. That was a really...
So Faith, are the feet then feathering in the traditional way?
Yeah. Yeah, well, but the feathering of the feet actually isn't a shift of weight into the front of the foot, but the sensation is the same through the whole of the foot.
Sure. Cool.
And particularly through the arches.
It sounds exciting.
It was interesting. Yeah, I thought it was.
And your sense was that it started in the wall of the back?
The wall of the back seemed really important to me.
Cool. Cool.
And I wouldn't have gone there. I mean, I wouldn't have thought to start there.
Yeah.
But boy, and I had to connect into my heels initially, even sitting, before I could really contact the back. That seemed to anchor the focus of the back when I was sitting. And I didn't think to take my shoes off to start, but that was helpful to have the shoes off. for me.
Cool.
At any rate, it's interesting, and I think the wording and the choice of vocabulary is something that could be expanded on, and I feel as though there are certain elements of this that have come up in the more recent Jorg's teaching, but elements of this are, I think, were present in the very first of my training. So it's intriguing to me that she has. I've never heard the term breath weaving in all of my years of trainings.
Yeah, that's what Monty and I were saying to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I read it as so much more advanced. You know, I could see why she wouldn't use it as teaching, because it is so advanced to go from the awareness of the inner and the outer and the elements and the forces, and then to have them in relationship, so they're actually weaving and interacting and finding their place with each other. Wow. That's so
It seems to
sophisticated.
me, though, the elements of that have to come in almost immediately, or at least in my.
It probably does on a fundamental level, but maybe not so much on a conscious participation level.
I've never had that conversation or dialogue with either Jorg or Ilse. So interesting, though. There's a whole lot there.
I remember a couple of times Ilse showing me, both in class and when she and I were doing something alone, even walking down the street together once. And she started fluttering her diaphragm, and I felt so inept. I was just amazed that she could just do that.
You're freezing, Barbara.
Oh, I am?
How did she do it? Go, ha, ha, ha.
It's just how flexible and available her breath and her diaphragm were. You know, I don't think it was a technique. She could just, I mean, literally we were walking together and she was doing it. So, you know, geez. She didn't even have to focus or concentrate or stop movement to really do it. She could just do it spontaneously.
I'm curious, what was she achieving by doing it?
Pardon me?
What?
What was she achieving by doing it? Was that part of your conversation?
Well, the last time she did it, we had gone to a dance in San Francisco, a dance performance. And so she was in this really happy, playful mood and wanting to move. And she became very childlike, you know, and dance-like just in her walking. And she was just playing with her breath and her body. She was just being very playful.
Well, physiologically, the tail or the cruise of the diaphragm attaches to the lumbar vertebra. So that may be the physiological explanation for the reference to the back. Maybe, I don't know. I never heard anyone.
But that makes total sense, Faith.
Yeah.
It does. Plus, the truth is, the back of the lungs are also, sensation-wise, they're physiologically more available. There's not as much tissue and organs and everything blocking the back as there is the front. So the whole capacity of the back of the lung to be interacted with, to be available, sensation-wise, seems more plausible. Seems plausible.
Well,
But I think what you're saying about the root of the sacrum, the root of the diaphragm and the sacrum connecting, or the lower lumbar, I mean, that just makes total sense.
I'm getting a lot from you guys just listening to it that's working through my body. Can I go next?
Please.
Yeah. So, well, in the time we've talked, it's gotten very, very smoky here. The fire in Reading is coming out into
Oh, drag.
almost to the coast. So I wanted to go outside and breathe, but I'm not sure it was such a good idea. And we have some people that have come up to the Women's Grove on the Toll, and they're camping for the weekend. And I hope it'll be okay. And then my party at the Benbow is supposed to be on the porch. So I had to make a phone call, and so this affects wealthy, poor, doesn't matter. It crosses all boundaries. And
Right.
so I was sitting outside. First I tried the feathering, and I thought, well, and then I was aware of the outer nose breath. And during the calls I was aware. So what I received out of this, I still have a lot of, and playing piano doesn't help. I get kind of a wrist and shoulder stuff, but I noticed the whole upper space opened, and I could sense it. And so there's a lot in the front and the back, and I was aware of the back, and the outer, of course, with the smoke. How could you not? So I feel good, but sad. I mean, the outer here is, the weather's been gorgeous and hot, and now this. I mean, it's a pall on the planet. So, but I was with my breath. Did this exercise, the first in breath moves, where we were to slap ourselves and, see the reaction. And it's like, these things that show up that aren't expected, they're out of the blue, and can you keep your core and keep breathing? So, I mean, I feel I'm with my breath, and my upper's more open, and I'm starting to gain consciousness in the upper back. I think that's the final hurrah there, and then the core, and then the world. So I was sort of surprised that it was all open, dealing with all this stuff, but the upper is pretty open, and I can sense the space. So I could do the breath weaving again another week, because it's something I need to sort of think about a little more. I sense the back, I understand the feathering, but I want to spend more time working with that and seeing where it brings me. And I think you need to have, for that weaving, as you said, Faith, you could sense your heels. I mean, the whole body has to be available for the inner and outer, I think, to really come together. That's all.
Well, thank you.
Great. So I'll go next. When I read the paragraph or heard the paragraph, I'm trying to say something succinctly, so bear with me here. So ever since I had those 2 emergency room visits for tachycardia a couple of months ago, it has made things worse in terms of like sleep apnea. But I went for another overnight study, and they told me I didn't have sleep apnea because my brain waves are different with my illness. So they think I'm sleeping, I'm not sleeping. So then it was like,
They think what?
they think I'm sleeping when I'm not sleeping. So they think that I don't have sleep apnea because
It doesn't register the same on their instruments.
it doesn't register that I'm stopping breathing. And I'm not stopping breathing because I'm not sleeping. And so they can't understand that they
Oh.
are different because of my illness. They can't understand. Okay, so then
Could you move your stool closer to the microphone?
Sure. So then I buy an oxygen concentrator because I'm desperate, because every morning I'm waking up with arrhythmia, heart arrhythmia, because my diaphragm and psoas are all screwed up now. So anyway, when I was doing this, at first I was like, oh my God. And then I thought, all right, just calm down. Just be with what is. be with what can be with your diaphragm and your psoas in this moment here. And let me get back a little bit. When we did the meditation, when I first started, the diaphragm was like more open, and it was like, oh, this is so exciting. I can feel some inner nose breath here. And then some negative thoughts came, and it immediately went. I think it's because it's so hyperactive now, because I don't normally have that huge of a diaphragm reaction to negative thoughts. So when I started working with this, I did like tapping and stuff just to get a little circulation. Then I was lying down so I could sense my back. And I sensed slowly some more movement in the diaphragm, but it really had to be that I wasn't expecting anything and it wasn't trying to get anywhere with it. And now it feels, and then the thought about inner and outer came, and at first my thought was, well, I can't even think about that because I'm so far behind in this exercise. But then an interesting sort of shift came where there was some sort of more openness, more permeability, so that I could sense the outer sort of in a more palpable way. I mean, not hugely, but just a little more substance out here. And now I feel there's definitely more movement in my diaphragm. And the last thing that happened when I was lying down was this real sense of needing to show kindness my diaphragm and my psoas muscle.
It's so sweet.
My NAET person yesterday was saying to me how the psoas muscle really reacts to fear. And she's also a chiropractor and 1,000 other things. But it makes sense to me because the more afraid I get about the arrhythmias, the more my psoas tightens up.
Wow.
The more arrhythmias I have. So kindness. I really get that.
Wow, that's beautiful, Karen.
Yes.
It's kind of challenging when you come from a background where kindness to yourself isn't even something that you think about.
Right. No, and that's not uncommon. And I really hear that. Yeah. So important. Good for you to even taste it, you know?
Yeah. So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
I'll just be here with my diaphragm and psoas with kindness. I'm finished. Not literally finished. I'll continue living. I just had that moment of, no, I'm not finished. I'm still breathing. Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for the dark humor to go with the beautiful story.
Oh, my God.
Well, I was coming from a very different place this morning. And actually required a lot of integrating, never mind the backstory. And so I read the thing when we first got here, and was already working on the fact that my body senses, I felt in specific, discrete portions, not integrated at all. And so I did, when I first sat down, I got some tall cushions to get up and really get that sense of the feet under. And I began also being very aware of when my eyes were open to see out the horizon, which of course, since we're indoors, I mean, I'm looking out a window, we don't have a horizon, we have a building. But the net effect of the whole exercise has been far greater acuity, sensory acuity and vision and hearing and sensation, and a tremendous integration of all these separate parts that were disintegrated. I had a couple of extremely difficult days, and then no sleep, and then very long sleep. And then the net effect of the whole thing, the story is, I mean, it was just to be, I literally was a skin walking around with all different kinds of pieces of organs and sensations and so on. So,
That's a great quote. I'm gonna remember that. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So it actually turned out to be a stunningly useful exercise. The first thing I did when we were starting the meditation initially, I stood and did the spinal roll by, that myself was requiring that, and did a couple of spinal rolls and came back in. And when I started this with the fluttering in the second meditation, it really felt interesting. It felt like I was almost regrowing myself from the spinal column out. And I was very conscious at times to do, I don't usually props or do that kind of thing, but I went and hunted up, 6 cushions in here at Steve's, because I kept wanting to be higher and higher and higher over the sits bones and connecting. And it's like it straightened out the whole thing through my back and the spinal cord and the heels of my feet. And I would have had a couple more if there'd been a couple more around here. So it was interesting how quickly I responded to putting those in place. It was like I felt the need for it because something was really craving it, and giving it immediately came in, and we could move on to something else inside. And so my feeling right now of walking is that I am centered on the earth. There is the walking feeling of a slight undulation when you're walking, like not your feet are going into the floor, but there's an almost like a tiny permeable layer as you move from place to place. And as I say, I'm solidly in my skin. There was different degrees of permeability at different times going through the exercise. And it would come in and out. But the basic requirement of my system was that all these things be woven in. So I feel almost as if I've grown out of my own backbone again and into a whole new place. My head is sitting in a different position on my shoulders. My whole sense of verticality is different. And none of this was a conscious attempt at anything. It was like just responding to this exercise. And then hearing Karen's story was wonderful. On the back of that, it felt like her experiencing was validating in a very different level, different way. This mine, which was sort of a more primarily physical experience.
Cool.
I love this, and I would love to do it again. As a group, I'm getting an awful lot out of hearing everyone's stories. And my own experience with small steps and with what we were taught when, which came 4 classes after the first. His teaching, both of them teaching, and what they were saying about it came in different ways. And there's something that is so nourishing to hear about people's original experiences and their growth experiences afterward. So I'll throw that as an agenda. I like the sharing very much. So thank you all. That's enough.
Cool. Yeah, I think the sharing is definitely a major.
It's very
Very
rich.
For getting together like this. Yeah. So for me, I ended up, for some reason it's easier to start with the end of the experience. I ended up with the body walls completely permeable. I feel as though there's no barrier between inner and outer. And I've sort of worked through the transitions. She talks about exploring the transition between inner and outer. So it makes me feel as though it's the culmination of the last couple of meetings, where I remember 2 meetings ago I talked about my sense of the outer extending out to the edge of the room, I mean to the edge of my body, to the edge of the room, to the edge of the sky, and to the edge of the universe. I mean going outer and outer and outer. And then last time I talked about doing that inner, going inwards through the layers from the body walls into the core. So now I feel as though there's a kind of a dance going on between these two. I wouldn't describe it as weaving exactly. That weaving terminology was a little challenging, I would say, for me. So physically, to get to this point of where I am now, of permeability, I started out with the old-fashioned feathering on the feet. I mean, my knowledge of feathering is this thing where you're bouncing on your feet. So that's where I started. And that led to kind of a sense of, well, for me, the feathering always brings me into the lower, brings me into my feet, and brings me into connection with the earth, which is definitely a good place to be, but didn't have a lot to do with the wall of the back and so on. So then I tried doing it in sitting, not feathering. I tried just sitting and playing with the idea of feathering. She uses feathering a couple of times in this thing. So I decided what she really means is this kind of choo-choo thing. We used to do this choo-choo in the train. So I did that where the diaphragm is bouncing. It's that kind of thing. Except of course with the choo-choo, there's this mouth thing going on. So which gives you a different sensation. So without the mouth, without the choo-choo, I tried that same kind of vibrating of the diaphragm, and that worked very well. That seems to be exactly what she has in mind here. So then I did have a sense of the back participating, the back becoming the dominant aspect of that, and I appreciate, Faith, you're making that connection between the diaphragm, the physiological connection between the diaphragm and the back. And then for me, it easily spread into the legs and the arms. And eventually I got up and did more of the physical feathering to combine this pulsing of the diaphragm with the bouncing on the feet. And of course the bouncing on the feet really lends itself to the arms and the legs joining, and the neck, and all the joints joining very easily. So it all sort of combined together for me in a really nice integrated way. And as I say, the result is the main benefit. I really feel like there's no barrier between inner and outer, and it's so interesting. It's like a flow. Each breath is like a flow into this greater outer and back into this greater inner. So it's a really nice feeling, a very powerful feeling. She mentioned something about power. I don't know that I sense it as personal power, but the experience is powerful for sure.
Good point.
Well, Ilsa's experiences are quite a stretch for us, I think. She was just so much more advanced. But it's wonderful hearing all your experiences. Like you said, Brenda, or maybe Karen said it too, listening to all of your sharing is always adds more dimension, you know?
I said it.
definitely.
I have a question. Has anybody heard what's going on at the Institute? I gather P's graduated. So are they closing it or what? Nobody knows.
No, I have not heard anything.
Dave?
It's not closing.
Oh, cool. Well, that's very positive.
Well, it's unclear as to what's really happening, but to date, it is not closing.
Yeah, you're just.
Well, I'm grateful to whoever is facilitating it not closing. I feel a great deal of gratitude because I know it's been a very, very difficult process.
Well, I'm hoping that there will be a public statement at some point, but
Okay.
at the moment, I don't have more information than that.
Well,
That's not true. I do. There will be a postgrad in January.
Oh, cool.
is that in addition to breath moves or is it breath moves? Or we don't know yet. Did Faith just
Faith, you're frozen.
Oh, we're good.
She's froze. I thought maybe the question
That was
was
too
much.
deep a question.
I think they're all
maybe-
frozen.
Maybe-
Barbara's frozen too.
Barbara and Kathy,
And Kathy's frozen.
we're not.
You're all frozen.
Oh,
no,
you're back.
you unfroze. Yeah, you came back.
Unfroze.
You were all frozen for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Could you hear us talking?
No. Did you hear me say I'll have for our next meeting? I'll have a new computer. So there.
No, I didn't hear that either.
Go ahead.
Did you hear my question to you, Steve?
That's good news.
Steve, did you hear my question to you?
No.
No, Faith.
No? Oh, what is the German word for weaving?
Webern. Webern.
Say it again.
Webern.
I
Webern.
can't hear you.
Can you spell it?
Weben is Webern. It's Webern.
Weben.
Huh. Is there,
Weben?
are there any other uses for that word in German?
Well, I was thinking as I was doing the exercise, I was thinking the way we use it in English is like when you're weaving through traffic. When a car is weaving through traffic, that's what my breath was doing. It was weaving through my body.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
It-
Yeah, it's almost,
Rather than this layer thing that I was talking about earlier, it's more
yeah.
a directed movement that's kind of finding its way, searching through obstacles to find its way.
Well, thank you,
uh-huh.
Steve. I like that. Now
Yeah.
I
I was really questioning the word.
Yeah.
We didn't read Monty's comment about.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Do you have it handy, Kathy? Do you have it in front of you? I can figure it out, but
I can get it. Let's see if I can. I'm not sure I can.
Yeah, I closed my mail. I read it earlier.
I guess my mail got closed too. Let's
it'd
see.
be nice to read it out loud. I agree. If someone-
Oh, okay. Mhm. A second. Oh, I have it if anyone.
Yeah, would you read it, Faith?
Read.
Blah 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 blah. Oh, they're having a party to celebrate the full moon, the eclipse of the moon tonight,
Yeah.
and our here blah blah. So I did the breath weaving today, and here are my experiences. In the beginning, I felt insecure. If I did the feathering right, and if my breath was too fast or too slow, to my great surprise, I found, however, in the end, that I did experience a flow of energy and spaciousness. Also, I still feel the soft transition between the inner and the outer. What a great feeling, and how easy it was to allow it to happen. I just did not understand the title of weaving. There it is again. Does she mean weaving together the inner and the outer? In any case, I'm curious to see the video of your experiences. Well, Mani, we're just having that same curiosity. Have fun with Ilse's words. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, a friend just sent me the astrological sign of the lunar eclipse. Hard-working time with strong opposites between inner and outer life.
Ah, perfect.
But do we know how to weave them together, she says.
Yeah, that's the human challenge.
Yeah,
Truly,
exactly.
truly.
No,
Lovely.
exactly right. That's
Well, so she was here even though she wasn't here.
great.
But do we have a lunar eclipse here? I don't think so.
No, it can't be seen from anywhere in the States.
Well, wait a second. Something's going on because last night we had a red moon here.
Yeah, it's called the blood moon.
It's the
Yeah.
fires.
This
Probably-
eclipse is called the blood moon eclipse.
Isn't it the fires?
No, no.
Because
Well, maybe that's contributing, but
Kathy,
But
because
this is a worldwide event.
oh, we didn't
But
have
it's mostly the rest of the world, not the United States. We're on
Yeah.
the wrong side of the globe for this one.
I read something about there's also a meteor shower happening, and that's
Oh my
most
goodness.
visible like August 11th through the 13th.
Oh gosh, lots of
That's a different
events
one.
in the sky.
The Leonids are coming, I think, on the 22nd of August, or is it the
Is
11th?
that right? Uh-huh.
What is coming, Rinda?
The Leonids, which are Leonids. Leonids, which are come every fall. We go through part of a meteor storm, and it creates these wonderful little things.
Oh,
So you see them every August, and they're wonderful to find a dark place to lie out and look up. But
yeah. I think I'm going to try to do it.
it's earlier.
There's so much light pollution.
Yeah.
the 11th through the 23rd.
The 11th through the 13th.
Oh. Wow. Well, that might be better than
That
10.
must be a new one.
New one what, Brenda?
A new meteor shower that's
Oh,
different from the one later in August, because the 11th is my brother's birthday, and I would have made that connection years ago if the
boy, this is really an unstable connection today. Here.
Yeah, I'm sorry for my part of the contribution. Like I said, my computer is dying, and
I don't think it's caused from your end. I think there's just a lot of instability.
I think
maybe
you're
it's
right,
part of
Dave.
what we're talking about with the moon and the stars. There's all that activity.
Something
And the fires.
Yes.
The fires.
Yes. I mean, since it all seems magical to me, I'll buy that.
And the fires.
Well, I'm gonna sign off. I have a session.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
all.
you all. Thank you for your patience and participation.
Absolutely. And hello, goodbye, Moni.
Yes.
Yeah. See you all on the 10th.
Honey, bye.
Good. And thank you for the translation, Steve.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes.
And money.
happy house
Oh,
sitting.
Moni, and you did it.
Oh, and
Yeah.
happy birthday, Kathy.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
happy birthday, Kathy.
Hey.
Thank you.
Oh, and she disappeared.
She just
Yep.
No.
She disappeared.
Hey, you know what? Every time there's somebody's birthday, even that month, we should give them a vowel. Do you want to do that? Give Kathy a vowel?
I don't know, Kathy, do you want a bowl?
Well, you all have to go, so.
Okay. Well, maybe next time then.
No, we'll do it next time. That's a good
Well,
idea.
I'll send
Let's
a
plan it.
bowl to you, Kathy.
Good.
I'll
Just